Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar on Foundation Pay, Modern Tools for Smarter Spending with Foundation. Just going to give everybody a second to jump in here, make sure everybody's audio is working. Just as a heads up, we will be recording this session and sending it out. But again, we're going to give everybody a couple minutes just to get joined in here before we get fully rolling. So just bear with us for one moment. All right. So it looks like we've tapered off here. Again, appreciate everybody jumping on to our webinar. Again, Modern Tools for Smarter Spending with Foundation, where we'll be taking a focus today on Foundation Pay on that end. So just to give you a little introduction to myself, my name is Dylan Kilpatrick. I work on our client sales team. I've been with Foundation for about 7 years. Where I have worked on our support team, I've worked on our training and implementation staff, and now I work on client sales, where I just work with our clients. I go out to our events and our foundation colleges and Converge, our user conferences and such, where I work with our clients to just make sure that they're getting the most out of the software. There's a lot of times where I talk to people and they have no clue that we offer additional modules or certain products and better timekeeping solutions and estimating. And now our newest product on that end is going to be the corporate card and the expense management tool that we're going to be reviewing today. So it's always nice to jump here on a webinar and just give you guys a little bit of a rundown of what's new. And with that being said, I kind of like to just kind of start with an overall brand awareness kind of overview of the entire foundation software family. So all of you guys on here should be familiar, hopefully, with Foundation. Is that job cost accounting system. But over the last 4 or 5 years, we have added a lot of different items and products. So we've added HQ Suite, which is our web-based platform for project management, scheduling, and HR and safety. P4C is our payroll service. To process payroll in terms of direct deposits, checks, handle taxes, 941s, filing, so on and so forth, quarterlies. And then we have our two estimating softwares down here. These are trade specific. They're usually more focused on our subcontractors that are actually doing the work, not necessarily geared as much towards like general contractors. So those softwares, McCormick is for the mechanical, the electrical, plumbing. The Edge is working with roofing, fireproofing, concrete, interior and exterior finishes like drywall, framing, roofing, acoustical, or I should say acoustical ceilings, flooring, EFIS, so on and so forth. And then the last two products that we've added to the banner is that WorkMax down there. That's our mobile timekeeping solution, which is a more robust timekeeping software. And then we also have the last piece of the puzzle, which is Foundation Pay. So Foundation Pay is a software that we brought under the Foundation banner. It was previously a product called Vendrix. Vendrix was the software that we would typically recommend companies to if they were struggling with managing their credit card expenses, entering them into the system, receipt capture. So Vendrix was a construction specific platform. We already had integrations with Vendrix. We brought them under the banner to make it more foundation specific, build out further integrations, more specific integrations to the accounting software, and make sure that it can just be the best product for foundation clients in general. So some of the stuff that's going to allow you to do is set spending limits, restrict categories when the cards are used, It's going to increase real-time visibility, which just allows you to, when a card gets swiped, there's not this huge lag time in transaction visibility, waiting till the end of the month and trying to look at receipts and match them out against your statements. We offer text receipt capture as well as in-app receipt capture, but then everything syncs directly back to your hosted foundation environment very easily. So on the hosted side of things, it flows data out and allows for data entry, so it pulls like jobs and cost codes and classes. On the on-prem side of things, it still does pull that information out. It's more of a sync back in with an import. For our hosted clients, it's an API that's a little bit more integrated, which I'll show you here shortly. So without further ado, let's jump into the product a little bit and kind of talk about what Foundation Pay here. So we'll run through everything that has to do with Foundation Pay. We'll talk about the current products and what's out, and then we'll talk about some upcoming products that are going to be available here in the near future. So right now, the main focus is the corporate card and expense management. We'll also kind of touch on our bill pay option, which we'll be releasing towards the end of the year, and as well as an AP automation tool that we'll be adding into the software next year. So what we're looking at here is the Foundation Pay, the corporate card, and the expense management. Again, this is that rebranded tool that Vendrix software. The first thing when it comes to Foundation Pay that I like to point out is that these cards are issued through the software. To use the software, you do have to use a Foundation Pay MasterCard. They're issued very easily. Accounts get set up through underwriting and credit application, and then we go in and order cards directly in the software. The reason we do the card ordering and we issue the cards through the software is so that we can keep everything up to date and in real time. So when you swipe a transaction, that will show up directly in the app within 30 seconds to a minute. A user will get a text notifying them that the transaction happened, and will ask for a text receipt to be submitted. So to start there, and that's kind of a little bit of the reasoning, but the card ordering is very, very simple. You guys would have control over this. You do not have to contact Foundation support to order cards or change restrictions or set limits or adjust limits or anything of that nature. We're still here to support you. You'll get the same level of support that you get with Foundation in this, but you do have control over the software in real time. So let's just say I wanted to order a card here for Roger. I set him up with user specific access, put in a phone number and an email address, and then I'm able to order a card here. On this credit limit area, when it comes to setting up spend limits on the cards, if you are going to set spend limits, you can come in here on a one-time, daily, weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly basis, and you can set limits on a card-by-card basis. And then you can also set up card restrictions in the system as well. So you can come in here and set up card restrictions. So you can say, hey, this is only going to be a fuel card. If he tries to use it at anywhere besides a pump, it just simply won't work. It'll decline. And we can set up other restrictions as well, like a fuel card plus, which is like a maintenance type card, a building supply store card, travel. You can also select multiple fields. And we have other categories and restrictions in the background. These are just the ones we honestly see people use most often, which is why they kind of default during the selection process. So if you do want to limit where the card can be used, you can set up restrictions here. Then you simply hit submit and it will order that physical card and send it out to you guys. And then allow you to issue those cards to the user, whether that be a project manager or a field user, so on and so forth. Again, these are MasterCards that are issued in the system, so it would be getting rid of your current card, whether that be like an American Express or a Visa, Chase, Capital One, so on and so forth. You issue the card through the software, and then you'll get the benefits of all the expense management completely connected. So when the card is used, the transactions will default here on the web, and when a card gets swiped, the end user, the employee, the first thing that they're going to get is actually a text message to their mobile device. I'm here just sharing my iPad screen for just easy viewing, but this could be, they're just a regular old phone that they would, access this data from. So it'll email them or it'll text them, hey, there was a charge from, mine says Square Vendrix there, but yours would say Home Depot, Lowe's, Quick Trip, regional gas station, whatever you guys are using, ABC supplier, so on and so forth. And it'll ask to respond with an image of the receipt and a short description. They then snap that photo directly on the phone and text in a short description of the transaction. It will confirm that it was added, and it'll confirm that it matched the last card swipe, where you can actually click down and look at more detail and open the application through those links. And then from there, we can go on to do further coding in the system. We can go directly into the application here and allow them to do further coding, whether that be the end user or a project manager or potentially an admin that would do this coding. The next step would be getting that coded properly and then routed to the approver to just put eyes on it and make sure that everything looks good. The reason we do this text receipt capture, just to kind of circle back to that, and we do the card issuing, is it's real time. This text gets to them very quickly, and that increases the likelihood that we get a receipt. Oftentimes when I'm talking to foundation users, I go, how are you getting receipts in the system? And they say, we don't actually upload them into the system, but we do kind of receive them. I get them, via an email or physical receipt, or they text them into the system. So now I'm getting receipts through a variety of different methods. Some of them have coding and some of them don't. They write them on there. Some of them have the details. The pictures are good. Some of them aren't. And then, from there, we're waiting till the end of the month and we're pulling a statement. And then we're matching out those receipts to the statement, hoping we have proper coding. And then we're manually entering all of that into Foundation. This is the first step in getting rid of all of that. We have one process, easy process that's connected to the accounting system to capture the receipt. It goes via text. There's no excuses that, hey, the application wasn't working. It's too difficult. We know these users know how to use their phone. They know how to text. They know how to snap a photo really easily. So it just limits the amount of excuses. It gets to them very quickly, which is going to increase, again, that likelihood that we get the receipt. So from there, we're going to go ahead and click into the application to show you a little bit around here. This is a progressive web app. It can be added to any phone, tablet, Android, iOS device. And this is where a user could come in to code their own transactions or code someone else's transactions if they have transaction visibility, as well as do approvals when the time comes, and we'll kind of get into that as well. So let's just say I wanted to go ahead and code one of these transactions, and I go ahead and open it up. On here, the description field from the text will pull in, as well as a receipt that was submitted into the system. If we didn't do text capture for the receipt, we can go ahead and open the application if they have access and snap a photo and upload it directly into the system. So we don't have to just do receipt capture. It can be, a photo taken directly in the app or chosen from the photo library if they took it and didn't upload it. Or if they get emailed or texted a receipt, if they're on the web, they can drag and drop that receipt in, or we can choose the file if it was saved on the device as well. And then if we scroll up, we can go in here to this workflow area. So this is going to be where we use your foundation data, or I should say you would use your foundation data to code those transactions. Again, this could be that initial card user that codes this. This could be a project manager. Anybody with admin rights and responsibilities would be able to come in here and do the coding. So it gets different for everybody. Some people, and I'm sure some of the people that are sitting in this in this webinar, you can think of a couple people on your staff that you're like, absolutely not. We're not going to be able to get them to go into an application and code these transactions. But if we can get them to snap a photo of the receipt and just text in, hey, it was job 1000, it was materials. That would still help us out a lot, and an admin can then come in and code the rest of the transaction and push it forward, which would still just make life a lot easier. So this uses your foundation data to do the coding. So the GL accounts that you give access to in the system will show up here. Active jobs will show up in the drop-down list, and you can scroll through this, or you can type in there and you can actually search for a specific job. So if I was like, hey, I'm looking for 24 1110 or a specific job, or looked up the name, that's a dynamic search field. And then it actually uses your cost codes and classes that are budgeted to that job. So if you set up a budget, it will only pull budgeted cost codes and classes, just again making entry as easy as possible when kind of pulling this into the system. If we need to split that transaction into multiple pieces, we can do that. If we want to select a vendor, it will default to like a credit card vendor, Vendrix, Foundation Pay, whatever we would name it. But we can also allow for selection. Most people do not want to select and enter a vendor for every single credit card purchase that they ever do. So oftentimes we see people just letting the default one work. But if you have like a larger, I was talking to someone yesterday, like, hey, we have like a Sherwin-Williams, we go out and do heavy purchases for. If we buy something from them, can we code it to them? And that answer is absolutely on that end. Other fields that can be made available here, and it's a dynamic entry. If you choose an overhead account, it's not going to require a job. If you select an equipment, it's going to require equipment. We can also have divisions and phases added into here as well. The database that I'm connected to does not have phases or divisions, but if that's something that you had in your database set up, we could do that. We could split transactions out into multiple line items if needed. So if this receipt should hit multiple GL accounts or multiple jobs, your cost codes, your classes, we can break that out as needed. And then once it's been through all of the coding, it's we've been through the receipt capture either in the app or via text. We can then go in and send it and route it through the approval feature. So I'm going to minimize my mobile device here, but I still like to just show that mobile piece off a little bit so that you know that users can access that. And that's users in Foundation Pay do not have to have Foundation access. They don't even really have to know what Foundation is, if I'm going to be honest with you. You just set them up as users in here where they'll go ahead and do their entry. After the entry's been through the initial coding, initial receipt capture, it then get routed to an approver. We can set up to 4 layers of approvals per transaction. So if you need to send it to multiple people, we can do that. But if we needed to set up, I don't know if I've ever seen someone use 4 layers of approvals. If I'm gonna be honest with you, most of the time it's 1 or 2 people. Maybe it's a project manager, or maybe it's an office manager, controller, CFO that would be doing the approvals for these transactions. So whatever the case would be, we would set up custom approval rules for you. Most people, it's like, hey, it looks at the job and whoever the project manager is on that job, it routes to them for an approval. And then anything overhead goes to this person or maybe specific vendors or something of that nature. So as the approver, this would queue up into your approval tab where you can come in and it looks like Ryan did a transaction here. And I would be able to look at that transaction and I would be able to verify that all the coding looks good. I'd be able to see a receipt. And you can actually see that it looks like there was a missing receipt affidavit filled out by Ryan on this one. So if there was a receipt attached, I'd see it. But there's also the ability, if we don't get the receipt or the receipt is lost, to have that end user sign a missing receipt affidavit, just verifying that it was a legitimate business purchase so that you guys can have that on file. As I scroll up, as the approver, I can adjust this coding, myself because I have the rights to do that in the system as an admin and transaction visibility. I can approve. I can also reject and send it back for further coding if needed. Most of the time I see an approver would just come in here. If they notice something's wrong, maybe it has the improper cost code or class, they would just make that adjustment. They would mark it as approved, which would then make it eligible to be pushed into the accounting system from there. And that's where we would then get into the settings. So as I jump into the settings to kind of follow this process all the way through, this is when we would push it into Foundation. As I get into this screen on the integrations, I do like to point out that the sync of Foundation data that pulls like your maintenance items out, like your jobs and your cost codes and your classes and GL codes, that sync happens automatically. It happens once daily. As you can set that daily sync up. But if you ever needed to sync items over manually, maybe you add a new job and you want to make sure it gets in there, you change a budget and you just want the up-to-date information in the software, you can do a manual sync. And then lastly, we can actually go ahead and open up our transaction. I'm going to search back into a range that I know has some transaction data in it. And then on here, I can see a list of all of my transactions. On these transactions, there's a couple different statuses that I can see. I have a locked icon here. That means that that transaction has been pushed to Foundation already. It's not going to allow me to push it again because that'll be duplication. So it's locked down, allowing it to not be messed with. One shows up as green here. That means the transaction's ready to go. That means it's been through the approval process. It means it could be pushed to Foundation. There's another one down here. And then anything that shows up as yellow means it's missing some level of detail. So that says missing workflow options, missing description, and also missing receipt. For these transactions that are missing information, we can set up an email notification to that user that notifies them, hey, you have a missing receipt or some information on this, and we can send that on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis. And the nice thing about this is if we kind of circle back to like our initial inbox, you can have transaction visibility as an admin where you can see all transactions and you can see exactly what transactions are still missing certain information. So you can sort and filter this by action and what's missing or even by user, and you can keep track of that as the month goes on. I was actually talking to a client that was using the system out at our user conference in Vegas, Converge. And what they told me, they were like, yeah, we take a look at that and we keep track of anybody that's missing data, missing receipts specifically. And if they get to a certain number where they, go above 5 or 10 missing, items, what we'll actually do is, they were saying that they go in and they actually turn off the card. So you can come in here and freeze a card in real time and then let them know like, hey, you need to get up to date on your transactions to get your information into the system before we'll turn that card back on. So that's the kind of control that you're able to have on these cards. And then that extra visibility is allowing you to stay on top of it so that you don't get too far behind. Because ideally, this push into foundation here in the accounting settings, I the most of the people that I talk to are doing this import, daily or weekly. So they go in there and push them on a regular basis, and that's going to eliminate that huge lag time, which is going to allow you to keep your job costs and your expenses more up to date and in real time. So you don't have to wait 2 weeks after the statement happens, and now when you're looking at your job cost reports, you actually don't see a lot of purchases that might be happening on those jobs for a long time. You do these pushes on a weekly basis, capture, and it'll allow you for better reporting and capabilities there. So to push into foundation, you simply just have to select the transactions that are ready to go. You can do a push on one or as many as you need. You can push as often as you like, and then you just have to hit this push to foundation hosted button, and it'll actually push over into foundation as a prepaid credit card transaction. And then from there, it will actually, just queue for posting. I pulled this one up and modified to show you all of the detail that flows in here. Most people wouldn't have to pull this up. At this point, you could make an adjustment if you notice the transaction had some information that was wrong on it. But for the most part, people are just going to come in and list and post it. And for our hosted clients, this pushes over. It hits a singular general ledger account for the liability, so it'll accrue the liability for the credit cards in there. And it hits all of the proper expense account. If it has jobs, it'll hit the jobs. It'll say who the card user was, the dates, who the vendor was. So if you do just kind of code to a bucket vendor, it still will have the vendor listed here in the description. But if you selected a specific vendor, that would push forward. And then lastly here is it actually pulls over with the image of the receipt attached to the document imaging module. So if you click that little file cabinet icon, it'll come over and it will pull the document. So it looks like here's a Frontier trip that I guess I took, on there. So you can see, my receipt that I attached, and that would be posted, and that will always be attached to your foundation transaction. If you went in to look at reporting, so if I pulled like a vendor inquiry or something of that nature. So if I went like vendor and pulled up a specific vendor in modify mode, I would be able to see the receipts attached to the transactions. It looks like I don't have much out here for this one. Let me go ahead and see if I have one for another vendor here. So by going to inquiry, you'll see that the receipts are attached to the transaction. So people that drill down into job cost reports, if they drill down into the transaction, would be able to pull that receipt up, or you'd be able to look back on the receipt and you just always have access to that, which is really nice. No having to kind of go and sort and filter through paper receipts or go out to a third party system where maybe you're storing it or a share file or something of that nature. It's always just attached to the transaction, which is really nice. Go ahead and I'll kind of talk about a couple other things when it comes to the cards, and I'll give like a little sneak peek on bill pay and AP automation, which are some future product releases there. I like to mention again, that you have control over this stuff. You can order cards. You don't have to contact us to mess with limits. So like if you had an employee that was going to be doing more spend this week, maybe they're doing travel and you need to expand the restrictions or anything of that nature, you can come in here and up limits and change restrictions on cards in real time, and that change is quick. That's not like a huge lag time between when that gets out there. So you can come in there and make those changes in real time. And then you can also come in and get support, report an issue with a transaction or dispute a transaction here as well. So if you had any issues, you can report an issue. You get the same support for this product like you do with Foundation. We also have some available chat features. I'm going to log into a separate environment just to show you real quick. But we have a chat function here where you can contact one of our support members via chat, and they would give you a hand with maybe something that you were having an issue with. I just had to switch over because that production environment actually has that access instead of this test environment that I use for these demos. But you get the same level of support. If you need to dispute a transaction, we'll dispute that on the back end for you. So our back end partner for this that does the underwriting, because they don't really trust me to do underwriting. In all honesty, which is probably for the better in all honesty, because I would approve you guys for whatever limits you were looking for. I wouldn't look at the statements or anything like that. So this is a corporate guarantee. We submit, credit application with, 2 years worth of audited or reviewed financial statements, a proof of address to establish the account. And then after that, you just interface with us, to have any issues ordering cards or anything of that nature, disputing transactions. That is, really it. There's some auxiliary stuff like budget reporting and, creating a purchase request. Like if you have anybody that like you want to give a card to, but you want them to have to get the card like transaction approved before they can use it. Really not a common functionality that I see people use, but we do have that. And again, we have like budget reporting where we can come in here and look at a budget report where we can see transactions and all the transactions that are associated with the specific budget for, um, you know, that person or a group of people. So sometimes budgets are kind of one-to-one related for a specific card, but sometimes they're a group. Maybe it's a travel thing that you guys are doing and you want them to all assign cost to a specific budget. You can do that as well. That is, again, everything when it comes to the corporate card, the expense management tool. The next thing I'm going to get into, I'm going to show us a quick sneak peek of our bill pay and our AP automation tool. These are items that are going to be coming out towards the end of the year into next year. The bill pays we're targeting for a December end of the year release, and AP automation we're hoping to have that out first quarter of next year. So what the bill pay function is going to be the ability to pay invoices through the system using a bill pay. So if you guys have ever gotten paid from a customer via like a payment service or like Corpay specifically, that's what this is going to be. But for you guys, instead of receiving payments, you guys would be the ones issuing the payments through the system. And how it works is, we have an integrated, connection with the Corpay vendor network. So Corpay, we have a lot of clients that are already using them. They submit files to them manually where they'll say, hey, here's the 10 invoices we want to pay. They send them to Corpay and Corpay pays them. What we've done through Foundation Pay is made a more seamless connection where you could just select the invoices for payment directly out of your account and mark them as bill pay invoices, and it will actually send directly to Corpay for payment. So instead of you guys having to be the ones that track down vendors and see if they accept an EFT or an ACH, or see if they will accept a credit card and send them your credit card information, or even printing a check out and mailing that check, you just bypass all of that. You select the invoices that you want to pay through your typical method. So you come in here and select your invoices. And then when you post, that entire batch gets sent to Corpay, and they will reach out to the vendors and pay via that vendor's preferred method. So if they're already in the Corpay network, they will get paid via the Corpay preferred method with them. If they're not in the network, they will initially get paid via check, and then they will get reach out to that vendor and try to get them signed up on cheaper forms of payment like virtual card or ACH. So check is obviously the most expensive option. It's also the highest risk of fraud when it comes to a lot of clients I talk to. In all honesty, it seems like there's a lot of fraud going around with mail getting intercepted and stolen, and the delay that it takes. So I already see a lot of our clients that are shifting away from doing a lot of printed checks to issuing credit card payments and ACH payments, and that takes a lot of time. So you can reduce the amount of labor, decrease the risk of fraud, because once you submit this payment file through Foundation Pay to Corpay, it shifts the liability from you to Corpay to make that payment. They cut the check out of their account. They send the check and email remittance information, ACH or credit card or virtual card payment on that end. So it also makes reconciliations at the end of the month easier, because you're not reconciling against a million payments, and you're also if you ever have to send positive pay files. So if you have to export a positive pay file to your bank, because the checks are not getting cut out of your account anymore, you actually no longer have to do the positive pay export either. We will, if this is something that you guys were looking at, we would submit an AP payment overview report for vendor match so that we can see how many of your vendors are already in the Corpay vendor network. If you were to move forward, then Corpay starts reaching out to the vendors before you're even live to get them to sign up. And then you just submit files over to them as time goes on. You can run reports and status reports in here to see exactly how things got paid, where they're at, whether they're scheduled, whether they've been paid, were they paid via check, were they paid via ACH or card. And then within the Foundation Pay system, this is where the payments will actually get queued up here in this schedule tab. And it looks like maybe my internet connection's being a little slow here, but they'll get queued up here on this Foundation Pay tab. And then they'll also move over here to the Pay tab at whatever frequency. Usually these payments send once an hour, and as long as they're submitted by, I think, like 5 o'clock Central Time, they will submit over to Corpay for payment that day, and if not, they'll like go over to the next day and get paid that day. So this would be where we can come in and we can actually open up and see email remittances and have copies of those that were sent to clients as well, just giving you visibility over the entire process and transaction that would happen. So again, this is basically a payment service for your AP invoices, offloading the responsibility and the labor that is needed to cut all of your accounts payable invoice checks. And again, this is set to be released here towards the end of the year. So if this is something that you are further interested in, you could just email me directly. I'll put my information up on the screen. We're building out kind of an interest list. If it's something you're super excited about, want to get on an interest list, shoot me an email. I'll put that up here at the end of the call. And then lastly, I'm going to show you like a really early sneak peek. This probably wasn't even on any of the bullet points that we showed, at the, in the email marketing that was sent to you guys. But in terms of this, I'd just like to show a really quick view and just talk you through what this will look like. So first quarter next year, what we're doing is releasing this AP automation tool, and this is going to use an AI to allow you to upload invoices, set up forwarding rules from your email, and shift those into the system. It will queue them up. The AI tool will read those invoices and pull like invoice numbers, dates, vendors, line items, so on and so forth. And then it'll allow for workflow coding and approval, here. So you'll be able to go in and you'll be able to code those transactions, and then those will import directly to Foundation once they've been fully coded. They'll come over as a, AP invoice with the image attached, eliminating a lot of need for manual entry. So that one's again, a super sneak peek of something that we're going to come out with early first quarter next year on the AP automation. If you have specific questions on AP automation, today is not the day to throw those out there, just to be honest with you, because we're still so far, but I can put you on an interest list and reach out with more information here in the future. So with that being said, what I'm going to do is just open it up to some Q&A here, see, kind of go through any questions. And then from there, I will, we'll send out a recording after the call so that you guys, have access to look back on this or, show it to anybody else at the company. So I'll go ahead and throw my contact information up here on the screen on the Q&A, and we will jump into your questions. So there's that email I was telling you about. Again, if this is something that is super interested, on your end, if you want to get in line to get further pricing and get a individualized demo, just email me directly here at dkilpatrick@foundationsoft.com. Or if you would like to, get on the interest list for some of those future items, you can also email me directly there as well. So open it up here for questions, and then we'll end the call after that. So did see one kind of question come through kind of midway through. It says, will we need to purchase a Foundation license for each card holder to access the app for card charges? And the answer to that is no. Users do not have to have access to Foundation to use Foundation Pay. The user setup is completely separate. So only admins really typically have access to both. It would just be the one that would, that would be needed. And that user license, would just be in Foundation Pay on that end. So no additional Foundation licenses typically. Okay, another question coming through here, just to kind of reiterate, it looks like we had a question on what type of card is it? Again, it's a MasterCard. Here's one of our old branded cards that I'll kind of throw up in the system. So the Vendrix card, it's a MasterCard, it's a corporate card. Again, that is a corporate guarantee. We submit application and underwriting, through them, third party, and then, everything is done on that end. And again, this isn't a bring your own card scenario. You do have to issue the cards, through the system, so that we can, get that expense system, management. We can flow information in there in real time. Next question here. Looks like, would all cardholders have to download the app to submit receipts? And the answer to that is no. They can do the receipt capture via text. So if you want to have that progressive web app on the phone, you can give them access to that. They can log in. But if they're just going to, text in the pictures of the receipts, they can do that as well. They technically do not have to log into the web or to the app to do it, even though it is good for them to have. So the next question I see here is just kind of, how is this better than some of the competitors that are out there? There's a handful. I mean, obviously there's all of the, terms of, cards, the Amexes, the Capital Ones, the, Chase cards of the world that don't really have an expense management solution. So if you're using one of those cards and you don't have expense management, you're doing the typical gather a reconciliation at the end of the month, and you have receipts getting submitted manually. The benefit of the software is going to be that it is, fully integrated with your accounting system. It's going to allow you for one place to capture the receipts, easy coding, increase the velocity in which you can get transactions into the system, reduce manual entry, basic, and then also front end reconciliation. Since it's connected and we're doing all the coding initially, you're doing the reconciliation, on the front end instead of having to do it all on the back end at the end of the month. On that end. So, in terms of those cards, that's where the benefit is there. There's some other platforms that kind of do expense management cards similar to what this foundation pay system, does. And the thing is none of those systems are going to be as integrated as this. So those systems, they have integrations or did have integrations with Foundation where it pulls some data out, but the import back into Foundation is pretty clunky. I was talking to somebody that was using one of the competitors, and they're like, it is just a nightmare to get these formatted and pushed back into Foundation. We try to use the importer, it doesn't work. We have problems with it. By getting rid of the need to use the FSI import and API connecting it, you can click a button and the transaction just appears on the other side. It's synced directly in, and it comes over with an image of the receipt attached in document imaging, which is going to be better than any other competitive system is going to have. One question here, it looks like maybe we have some current users in here. That sounds like some happy people putting in some good things here on the chat on my end. But I have one question here that says, if we already have Vendrix cards, do we reapply for credit with Foundation Pay? And the answer is no. We'll rebrand that for you. You don't have to do any changes or do anything. You can keep those Vendrix branded cards and continue to move forward. At some point, the entire system will rebranded, and moving forward, it'll just look like Foundation Pay for you. I think some of the switches for the current clients that came over during the acquisition is still in motion. So that will happen, and our support team will be in contact with you. Next question is, when employees submit receipt on the app, can they code the purchase at that time based on the job they have permission to in Foundation? So yes, they can code those receipts. So if they do the text capture and they're also going to be the one doing the coding, they do have to log into the app or onto the web and code that transaction. They can put in a description, but it's not like actual full coding through the text. They log into the app, they code with the information, it pulls from Foundation. It's all real time. They code that and then route it to the approver. It says the next question is, what is the name of the module we have to purchase to start using your credit cards? I mean, it uses the document imaging module within Foundation, but it's a product add-on. There's not a specific module inside of the software. It integrates with the document imaging and accounts payable modules within Foundation, but it is a web application that kind of lives separate. Users kind of are set up separately as well, but it is all integrated. So if this is something that you are looking to potentially get added, or move forward with, again, all you have to do is email me, dkilpatrick@foundationsoft.com. We'll go over some quick questions and gather some more information about exactly what you're looking for and get specific pricing. So if you, like I said, if you're looking for exact pricing, for the system, you would need to email me, and I can kind of follow up with some more, information from there. Okay, it looks like things are winding down here in terms of questions. I think we got to the majority of them. If I did miss your question, we'll have myself or a team member reach out to you. But again, I appreciate everybody jumping on. If you are again interested in further information, pricing on this, please email me. You see my email up here on the screen right now. Go ahead and note that down. We will be sending a recording of the call here sometime in the next 24 to 48 hours. And then lastly, if you want to get put on the interest list for either bill pay or AP automation, please also reach out to me and I'll get you added to that. Appreciate everybody jumping on and hope you have a great rest of your day.